Hello students, welcome back to your English class. This is the last video before your first semester examination. In this video, I am going to take up the poem in the Bazaars of Hyderabad. I had already sent you an assignment for this poem, so today when I explain, it will be a revision for you all. So let's begin with introduction of the poet. Sarojini Naidu was one of India's best known political figures and a freedom fighter who was actively involved in the Indian national movement. She was also a very good orator and one of India's most talented poets. She was awarded the title the Nightingale of India. In this poem, the poet beautifully describes a traditional bazaar of Hyderabad, the place where she was born and where she spent her childhood. Here, she beautifully describes the smells, colors, sounds that are there in the market, which is crowded with merchants, peddlers, vendors, musicians, magicians, fruitmen, flower girl, goldsmiths, etc. This poem is full of description and imagery. Imagery. Now, what is an imagery? Imagery is the use of language which produces pictures to the readers or the listeners. Now, when you hear a group of words, phrases, or maybe a sentence, you read a sentence or you hear a sentence, certain images or pictures are created in your mind. That is the use of imagery. Suppose you read a sentence and a visual is created in your mind. That is a visual imagery. You read a sentence and you can imagine the smell or the sound. If you imagine the smell, that is olfactory imagery. If you hear the sound, that is auditory imagery. I'll deal with the imagery at the end of this video because you have an exercise on this. Now, before that, let us begin with the explanation of the poem. The purpose of this poem is to portray the vibrancy of traditional Indian bazaars and crafts. It should be noted that this poem was written with the idea of using Swadeshi goods instead of British goods was gaining popularity as part of India's independence movement. So in this poem, the poet actually wants to advocate the use of Swadeshi goods as against British goods. This poem is written in the form of question and answers. Each verse begins with a question to groups of people in the market, followed by a descriptive list that answers the question. What do you sell, O ye merchants? Richly your wares are displayed. Turbans of crimson and silver, tunics of purple brocade, mirror with panels of amber, daggers with handles of jade. So in the first stanza of the poem, the speaker asks the merchants, what are you selling? O ye merchants. Ye is actually archaic word. It is old fashioned word which means you. It is used for you. Richly your wares are displayed, and the speaker says that your wares, your articles are displayed very beautifully. And the reply that the speaker gets is that they are selling turbans of crimson and silver. Crimson is deep red color. So they are selling turbans which are of deep red and silver color. Tunics of purple brocade. Tunics are loose garments which have wide sleeves. So they are selling tunics of purple brocade. Purple colored brocade cloth. Brocade is a fabric on which woven work is done with silver or gold thread. Mirrors with panels of amber. They are selling mirrors which have, you can say, bordered, which are lined with amber. Amber is fossilized tree resin, which is yellow in color. It is used for decorative purposes. So these mirrors are beautifully decorated with amber as they have panels of amber or are outlined with amber. Daggers with handles of jade, and they are also selling daggers which have handles of jade. Jade is a hard stone that is usually green and is used for making ornaments and jewelry. So these merchants, the reply that the speaker gets is that they are selling all these things in the bazaar of Hyderabad. What do you weigh, O you vendors? Saffron and lentil and rice. What do you grind, O you maidens? Sandalwood, henna and spice. What do you call, O you peddlers? chessmen and ivory dice. So in the second stanza, the speaker actually moves on in the market and she sees the vendors, the small stalls, those who have small stalls, they are selling something, they are weighing something, and the speaker stops to ask them, what are you weighing? And they reply that they are weighing saffron, lentil and rice. Then the speaker spots the maidens, the ladies there, and they were grinding something. So the speaker asks them, what are you grinding? And they reply, sandalwood, henna and spice. These are all found in South India, in Hyderabad. That is why the maidens there were grinding them in the market and selling. What do you call, O you peddlers? Then the speaker spots the peddlers. Peddlers are those small stall owners, you can say. So they were actually calling out. They were calling out something to their customers, to their probable customers. And the speaker asks them, what are you calling out? And they reply, chessmen and ivory dice. So they are selling chessmen, that is the pawns of chess, and ivory dice, dice made of ivory. What do you make, O you goldsmiths? Wristlet and anklet and ring, bells for the feet of blue pigeons, frail as a dragonfly's wing, girdles of gold for the dancers, scabbards of gold for the king. Next, the speaker asks what the goldsmiths make. She learns that they make bracelets, anklets and rings, which are all ornaments, as well as bells as light. Frail means light. As frail, as light and delicate as the wings of a dragonfly for the feet of blue pigeons. Actually, these blue pigeons, they are the carrier pigeons that had tiny bells attached to their feet to ward off birds of prey and also to identify themselves to their owners. So the goldsmiths, they are making bells, small bells which are very delicate, like dragonflies' wings for the feet of blue pigeons. The goldsmiths say that they also make belts of gold for the dancers. Girdles are belts. Belts of gold for the dancers and sword covers. Scabbards are the sword covers. Sword covers for the swords of kings. What do you cry, O you fruitmen? Citron, pomegranate and plum. What do you play, O musicians? Sitar, sarangi and drum. What do you chant, O magicians? Spells for the eons to come. Now next, the speaker asks what the fruitmen sell, and then she lists that they are selling citrus fruits, pomegranates and plums. She wonders what the musicians play, and she finds them playing sitar, sarangi and drum, which are all musical instruments that are played in Indian classical music. She asks what the magicians chant, and then she gets a reply that they are chanting magical spells for the eons to come, that is for the ages to come, for the years that are yet to come. What do you weave, O you flower girls, with tassels of azure and red? Crowns for the brow of a bridegroom, chaplets to garland his bed, sheets of white blossoms new garnered, to perfume the sleep of the dead. And finally, the speaker asks what the flower girls weave with blue and red bunches of decorative threads. The tassels are decorative threads. Azure and red. Azure is this blue color and red. She wonders if the flowers will be woven into crowns to be worn by a bridegroom, or strings of flowers that will decorate his bed, or whether the newly collected blossoms will be woven into a sheet at a funeral to lend perfume to the final sleep of life. Now we move on to this appreciation part, which is at page number 31. And there you'll get imagery. As I told you, imagery is the use of language which provides pictures in the minds of the readers or the listeners. And there are various kinds of imagery. As I told you, when something tells about visuals or sights, they are called visual imagery. When something relates to taste, that is called gustatory imagery. When something relates to touch, that is tactile. When there are words or phrases that relate to smell, that is olfactory. When there is a sentence or phrases or words that relate to sound, that is called auditory. So in this picture you will get all these. You will get words that relate to taste, words that relate to smell, sound, sights, etc. So various kinds of imagery are used in this poem. Now let us do this exercise that is at page number 32. State the type of imagery used in each of the following sentences, and the options are given here: visual, olfactory, gustatory, tactile and auditory. First one, as I woke up, I inhaled the fresh fragrance of jasmine growing in my garden. Now see, inhaled. Inhaled, that means it relates to smell, and so that will be olfactory. Second, from my hotel room, I could hear the waves crashing against the rocks. I could hear relating to ears, so that is auditory. Second one is auditory. I was so hungry that I ate up the sweet, juicy peaches I was saving for dinner. Sweet, juicy peaches, they are talking about taste, so that is gustatory. I bought the fabric for its soft, velvety texture. Texture, that means related to touch, so that will be tactile. The sun looked like a ball of fire in the sky. Looked like a ball of fire. Looked, so it's relating to visual picture. So the last one is visual imagery. So students, with that we have come to the end of this video. Prepare well for your first semester examination. All the best. Stay safe. Take care.